All eyes on the Lone Star State. The Senate seat is up for grabs as a veteran incumbent faces his toughest primary yet. Redrawn maps are shaking up Congress, while a wide-open race for Attorney General transforms the power structure in Austin. The polls, the players, the path to victory. This is Battleground Texas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rudy Koski in Austin. This is Battleground Texas, and it's Friday the 13th. So let's dive into some scary political headlines of the week. Some headlines that just may have some candidates on edge. Now, in a major legal move by Attorney General Ken Paxton earlier this week, he rescinded a 2001 opinion written by then AG John Cornyn. The 25-year-old opinion had allowed licensing authorities to bypass certain Social Security requirements for occupational licenses. Paxton is framing this as undoing Cornyn's legacy of putting illegal aliens first. Essentially, what he's doing is using his current office to actively campaign against his primary opponent. And then there's this fresh friction in Houston's 18th congressional district race. Just days after Christian Menifee was sworn into office, sources report a logistical tug-of-war over office space and constituent services that has emerged between the new congressman and longtime Representative Al Green. You may remember, Green currently represents the 9th district, but is challenging Menifee for the 18th after being moved there by the state's new redistricting map. So new polling suggesting Green is now fighting for his political life against Menifee, who is riding the momentum of his recent special election landslide victory. Today's hobby poll showing Menifee with a commanding 24-point lead over Green at 52 to 28%. Now the margin of error, it sits at just 4%. So man, those numbers are big. So let's bring in my colleagues, Greg Grugan in Houston and Stephen Dial in Dallas. Stephen, you know, it's the big undecided numbers in the recent polling that really caught my attention. What about you?
Yeah, it really comes down to, are these candidates getting up on the air? And, you know, while some political scientists may say, you know, the advertisements are just to fill the air, some people only recognize names from that. And so if you're looking at a congressional race that doesn't really have candidates up on the air, that may correlate with that disconnect. And I'm really looking at that congressional 18th district race because I think time may be up for Al Green. It may be a changing of the guard. Greg, what do you think?
Stephen, all I can say is when the hobby school poll numbers dropped in Texas 18, heads here in Houston were spinning like Beetlejuice or Linda Blair in The Exorcist. Could it possibly be happening? 11-term congressional warhorse Al Green down a double dozen to a relative newcomer in Christian Menifee. Turns out the folks over at the hobby school were also concerned enough to double the size of the survey. Boom, same result. Fellows, we could be witnessing a generational changing of the guard, and it's not happening voluntarily. Bottom line, Menifee has been campaigning nonstop for the better part of a year. Al Green, not so much. Guys?
Yeah, good take. Good take. Stephen?
Yeah, so yesterday I sat down with the head of the Texas GOP, and he said that he's pretty confident that Republicans will show up when it matters most. Take a listen.
So people are looking at it and say, we're kind of tired of this, a lot of the policies. I mean, it's not really the personalities. Then you add personalities like Tallarico, who thinks Jesus is not really God and quotes Bible every 3 minutes he gets to do it. So they just can't come together on those, get behind these people anymore.
The big ticket race is the U.S. Senate.
Right.
Where a lot of money's been spent. Your candidates have been talking a lot of political back and forth. Is that healthy, or does that beat up who will be eventually the nominee?
Well, good thing is the Democrats have either Jasmine Crockett or Tallarico, and I think the Republicans will come together against them regardless of who is our nominee, because they would rather have the guy who they didn't like and the Republican ticket in the U.S. Senate versus Jasmine Crockett or Tallarico. I mean, they're not going to go that direction.
ICE has been a huge topic, and to the Republicans' credit, you guys in Texas made inroads with the Hispanic community, and that hurt Democrats.
Yeah.
But do you think this recent ICE enforcement in certain cities is going to negatively impact Texas Republicans?
No, I don't think so. So I was at a town hall in South Texas, I don't know, 3-4 days ago. The biggest thing I heard was not about ICE. It was all about property tax. They wanted to know, what are we going to do about property tax? Because we asked, and like I even kind of preempted in my speech saying, I know some of you may be looking at and your neighbors are saying something bad about Republicans. And they said, no, we support legal immigration. We support deportation of illegal immigrants.
It seems like there's a lot of energy on the Democratic side. Do you receive that, or do you think there will be a lot of energy on the Republican side too?
The Democrat side's numbers, when we see it, they do have some energy. The energy usually comes from a very small faction of the Democrat far left. It's not the Democrat Party itself. I don't think they're going to show up this time. They're just going to stay home.
You think they're going to stay at home?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They have no presidential candidate. They don't have a good senatorial candidate. Their gubernatorial candidate, nobody even know who that is. So who are they going to rally behind?
Wow. Well, kumbaya. All that was missing were the ladyfingers and Kool-Aid. After the break, we'll talk about what the GOP chairman said to Stephen and how Ken Paxton's new campaign ad tries to pull a Trump endorsement into the race, even though one endorsement hasn't been made. All right, welcome back to Battleground Texas. President Trump has not made a formal endorsement of the GOP Senate race, but that hasn't stopped Ken Paxton from claiming a blessing from the president in his new campaign ad.
An attorney general who has really led the way, somebody who has been brave and strong, Ken Paxton.
It's going to take a patriot like Ken Paxton to make America great again.
He's very, very talented. He's a very talented guy.
relationships, including his association with Steve Bannon, who has faced several accusations of anti-Semitism. Cornyn shames Paxton for, quote, not calling out anti-Semitism on the right. And the Cornyn camp also takes aim at Paxton over accepting campaign contributions from Anish Ahmed. He is a former Chicago hospital executive and fugitive who is being targeted by the DOJ for allegedly defrauding taxpayers. Now, guys, on the GOP Senate race, it's certainly tightening up and heating up. No surprise there, right? Stephen, were you surprised with the GOP chairman's ho-hum attitude about the midterms, or are you more surprised about Ken Paxton following up his fake AI Cornyn Crockett dance ad with a manufactured two-step with the president?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking as a political strategist, Paxton did what he had to do. If you have all of this good ammunition of the president praising you, why not put it in your campaign ad? Use that money and spending it wisely. So from a strategy wise, the political ad is genius. In reference to Abraham George's comments, I mean, he's a confident guy. Now, this is Texas, and until Democrats do the unthinkable, people are going to keep underestimating the Democrats. And so for him, he believes his voters are going to come out. We'll have to see.
All right, Greg, I'm interested in your take. Didn't George sound like a little bit like Kevin Bacon's character in the parade riot scene from Animal House movie? All is well. All is well.
Spot on, Rudy. You know, the most ferocious and ultimately successful American politicians always campaign like they're behind, even when they're leading by double digits. I was particularly stunned by George's complacence with the Hispanic vote, which Republicans captured in the last cycle, but appear on the cusp of squandering in the midterm. Note to George, even if you hold ground in South Texas, literally millions of Latinos make their home in the major Texas cities where ICE is operating the most heavily. And lots of those folks aren't socially conservative, older Tejanos. Now, if the pendulum swings hard enough, Republicans could take some lumps in a midterm where Donald Trump's name isn't on the ballot to offer any coattails. Rudy?
You know, Stephen, you kicked off the week with the interview with the state Democratic chairman. How does that spin compare with today's spin?
I mean, you know, both guys are doing their job. But what was interesting was with Kendall Scudder, when we talked to him at the beginning of this week, he, bouncing off what Greg said, specifically talked about high-performing Hispanic districts in Senate District 9. He says that their data showed that Hispanics turned out more in that runoff election. So if that's happening in Tarrant County, I'd be interested to see what happens across the state.
Yeah, it's a big red flag. Greg, what do you think? Real quick.
Okay, I'm going to go to the fallback, Rudy. If the economy turns sharply in a prosperous direction and folks start feeling like happy days are here again, it doesn't matter what the Democrats do. But if kitchen table finances continue in a sort of uncertain malaise, Republicans could lose a great deal of ground, including the House, the Senate, and potentially, as Stephen was talking about, their 3-decade unbeaten streak in Texas statewide elections.
Okay, a sleeper issue for the midterms got a nudge recently by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. When we come back, reading, writing, and trucking.
I will point out that being a bad driver doesn't necessarily have anything to do with whether or not you can speak English. I also will point out that I've had the privilege, or maybe not so much the privilege, of driving in multiple countries, and I was not required to get another license. I was able to rent cars in other countries and drive because some things are kind of universal. And frankly, if somebody passes the test as it's laid out, then I think that that's kind of what it is. If we need to change the test, then we need to change the test.
All right, that comment from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett came during a recent House Judiciary hearing. It was about the push to enforce trucking rules requiring drivers to be able to understand English. Crockett's view on that issue brought a strong rebuke from Jeffrey Burkhart. He is the chairman of the Commercial Vehicle Training Association and is from Texas.
I thought that it was almost a cavalier attitude towards the subject in general, but going beyond that, which might be just a personality thing, but going beyond that, the substance of the comment is entirely, it's not predicated on fact.
The comments prompted you to write an op-ed that was published earlier this week. You raised a lot of points, but bottom line, what do you want people to understand about your position?
We do not want there to be any type of false comparisons between operators of motor vehicles, commercial versus personal. That is at the bottom line. It takes an entirely different skill set, entirely different standards. So if a driver cannot understand basic English, what is required of the law, cannot understand signs, cannot communicate effectively with law enforcement officials, other regulatory bodies, customers, etc., well, then that person is, by virtue of not having that skill set of the English language, is really jeopardizing a whole host of folks.
Clearly, it is a safety issue. Are you worried that it will become a political debate as the midterms move forward? And should it be a political debate, a sleeper issue?
Great question. No, it should not be. I think in terms of safety and a whole host of other subjects, they are apolitical. They certainly should be. There is no political affiliation with safety.
But it seems that the debate has gotten somewhat political within the immigration debate, and that these new rules are not immigrant friendly. Do you buy that?
No, I don't buy that. It's not targeting Hispanic language as a native tongue, Spanish as a native tongue. It's not targeting any language for that matter. It's simply meeting the standards that are set forth in order to operate these vehicles. And that language standard is English.
If the politicians want to make this a political issue, is the trucking industry ready to fight that fight?
Yes, I certainly am. Certainly do believe so. It doesn't matter whether it's a CMV driver or an airline pilot. There are regulatory standards that are put in place for very good reasons. And I think anytime that anyone or any entity wades into the politicization of those standards and the desire to maintain them is going to be rebuffed very, very quickly.
Well, the trucking industry may not want this to be a political issue, but it seems to be gaining traction as one. Greg, is this a sleeper issue for you? And if not, do you have one that you're watching?
Oh, Rudy, with all due respect, that comment from Congresswoman Crockett was a breathtaking example of reckless absurdity. Seriously, did she actually equate her ability to rent a Toyota Corolla in Cancun to operating a 35,000-pound 18-wheeler on American highways under all manner of weather and traffic conditions without the ability to fully comprehend road signs written exclusively in English? Excuse me, Congresswoman, your "it's all good" hope turns really, really bad when an illiterate, foreign-born, non-English speaking trucker guesses wrong on a sign and obliterates a minivan full of kids and their parents. I ask, how are you going to feel then?
Yeah. Stephen, how about you? Does the Crockett comment keep on trucking, or is there another sleeper issue behind the wheels?
I mean, there's so many issues that we have been talking about. I don't think that's going to be a reason why people go to the polls. But to Greg's point, she sounded dismissive in those comments, and I think that's where the concern is for some people. Now, to the Jeff, I forgot his last name. He's saying it's not a political issue, and maybe it shouldn't be a political issue, but it is political. He also said it doesn't target a specific race. Clearly, we're talking about Hispanic people. Like, let's not blur the lines here. We're talking about those types of people. So yeah, while the intent is not targeting someone, safety should be the priority. And to Greg's point, these people who are driving these vehicles are on roads with thousands of people, and so there's a harm factor in there. But there's also people in the food industry who don't speak English. Are they confusing the food recipe? There are people in the hospitality industry that don't speak English. So I think this could turn into a slippery slope. The Congresswoman could have worded it much better.
Yeah, I think it's a debate that has traction, but you got to point out in 2025, 17 fatal wrecks, 30 people dead. An audit of Texas, just the Texas CDLs, 50% were revoked because of problems within the system. So, and then there's a new crackdown that's going to be coming on what they call the CDL paper mill type, college type situation. So it's still going to be going. Last word, guys. This one sticks around, or is it just a subtopic?
Oh,
Greg?
Man, we got carnage out there. This is a 17-ton vehicle. They don't stop on a dime, and they don't have fender benders, Rudy.
Stephen, last word, quick. All right. When we come back, all right. When we come back, we'll take a look down ballot. Some of the races are heating up down there. Welcome back to Battleground Texas. I'm looking at some of the down ballot races, specifically Governor Greg Abbott. He is suited up, seems to be trying to do his best Roger Staubach Hail Mary impersonation. Radio ads this morning, including one here in Austin, have Abbott endorsing his ad commissioner pick, Nate Sheets, who's way behind in the recent polls. Can there be a comeback there? And Abbott has a package of ads airing in rural Texas. Those are blasting Jasmine Crockett and other Democrats, and he's calling them radical. Greg, what are you blitzing?
All right, Rudy, on the president's order, ICE this week bailing out of Minneapolis. Now, as we acknowledge as much on February 13th, I'm left to wonder how much of the operational boondoggle will linger into voting booths on November 3rd. For all the wrong reasons, Renee Good and Alex Pretty are household names today. But given the rapidly contracting American attention span, how politically relevant will the two progressive martyrs be a full 8 months from now? I don't know about you, but I can't answer that question right now, and I think it's a pretty critical one. Stephen?
Hey guys, what I'm looking forward to is next Tuesday. How many people will turn out? But also, will Ken Paxton talk to the media? He is starting a campaign tour on Monday, and it stops in his home county of Collin County on Tuesday. I'll be there. We'll have to see if he speaks to the media. Rudy?
All right, guys, that's all the time that we have, unfortunately. You can see the interview, all our interviews, or any of the past interviews by going to our YouTube pages.
And keep the conversation going on social media.
All right, Battleground Texas, we end week 2, and starting week 3, we are focusing on some congressional races. A lot of mudslinging. We'll see you on Monday.